Well, hello again, and welcome to Jamboree. The crowd are assembling and will join us eventually. Just for the moment, I'm Keith Hayes. I'm the guru, if you like, of Mirador television. Long in the tooth now, as you can tell from sometimes my less than fluent language and less than fluent presentation. But nonetheless, still going and ready to hang over to somebody else the moment that somebody is willing to take on this role of executive producer. It's not an easy role. You have to be available more or less 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to meet all sorts of challenges, some of which you can achieve and some you can't, and some you are disappointed with. But nonetheless, it is a worthwhile operation. We highlight stuff that normally would not get before the public, and not only the public in Lewis, but also the public in America, the rest of the country. We are widespread watched throughout the world, and we'll get more so if we get a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little bit more people to help us. As it is, we are short of resources. We're short of money. We're short of people. We're short of time. But we motor on. And this Jamboree is one of the highlights of the week, when on a Friday, 4 of our colleagues get together, and all they do is they say hello. And that springs all sorts of things out of their mind that they've experienced in the last 24 hours or the last week, and gives them the opportunity to talk about. None of us are short of the ability to talk. We are able to put two words together. And sometimes it is interesting to see what comes out. We are a bit like Marmite. Some people hate us. Some people love us. But nobody ever forgets us. And we are worth watching for at least a few minutes each week. So I invite you to watch. And you can take part, because it is possible for you to find, if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, a little button where you can actually comment, make comments, and chat to the people appearing at that given time. We've had some interesting, fascinating chats to people the other side of the world. And our favorite is the gentleman from Patagonia who taps in from time to time. We are a hybrid operation. We do some very serious things and informative things. Normally on a Thursday morning at 9 o'clock, Richard Barton, who is a barrister and head of his chambers in Brighton, comes on and discusses aspects of the law, and sometimes some good old cases, and sometimes a combination of both. His dedication is such that at the moment he's in hospital, the broadcasts on a Thursday morning from his hospital bed, from the ward, pausing for 5 minutes during his broadcast to receive treatment from his doctor. That's followed by John Henty, who is a veteran broadcaster, with the first voice ever to be heard on Radio Brighton way back in the 1960s, who is knowledgeable of old-style music hall as nobody else is, has collected over the years memorabilia from the entertainment industry and from other collectibles, and gives a very amusing dialogue on what they're all about. Stuart Dalby comes next, who is an ex-Financial Times journalist and who has just recruited two of his colleagues from the days when they were foreign correspondents overseas reporting on what was going on. And since that stuff never ends and is always very present, the Middle East, the Far East, the Gulf, you name it, Africa, they're able to put in perspective present news in the context of what was happening 20 or 30 years ago. We also keep an eye on what's going on locally and ask the questions. Why isn't anything being done? We don't often get the answers, but if we keep asking, eventually it's a war of attrition. On Friday, today, John Prideaux, an expert in AI, comes on and does some fascinating things. Today, he replicated a little clip of the last race on Lewis Racecourse way back in 1964. He also does other useful hints and tips and lets us know what's going on in the AI industry. Then we move to what we're about to anticipate, Jamboree, which is a free flow discussion program. We do not know what we're going to talk about when the camera opens up. It can be matters of the day. It can be things that have happened. It can be things that are going to happen. It can be anything that happens to be triggered by the odd comment. Oh, you say they must run dry within minutes. On the contrary, we like to call a halt at 11:30 because although it is not true of today, we usually are broadcasting out of the Black Horse pub. We're broadcasting out of the Black Horse and Declan Roll, the very affable and competent landlord there, needs to get his pub going. And a very good pub it is too. So we abandon ship at 11:30 each day so that the pub can become a pub again. But we are still talking at 11:30. And 9 times out of 10, nobody wants to leave because the topics are interesting. Now, let me just go back a couple of moments. Well, first of all, I want to make an appeal. First of all, on behalf of St. Anne's Hospice, the St. Anne's Church, rather. That's a historic flint wall appeal. St. Anne's Church sits just on the edge of the bottleneck in Lewes. For those people who don't know Lewes, that is just as you're going into the town. It's over 1,000 years old, and it is mostly constructed of flint. And flint erodes. And the wall supporting the churchyard and separating it from the road is beginning to erode. And the people at the church plan to restore it. Well, nothing comes cheap nowadays. It's going to cost £20,000 to restore. We ain't got no money. So, an appeal is being launched this evening, Friday the 9th, and there will be a little video played later in the day with a concert with Philip Griffiths, an internationally renowned singer who will give a concert for free. You get some refreshments, you get a CD, and you don't have to put in anything. The organisers hope that you will. Hope that you will support Anne's Church, St. Anne's Church, and the historic flint wall appeal, because it is essential to keep the graveyard in shape, for one thing. And if the graveyard goes, possibly the church might go. So it is essential work. And we ask you to dig deep into your pockets. And particularly if you're watching this show in America, which I know many of you do, this churchyard, being 1,000 years old, is many people left this part of the world for the Americas over the centuries, and their relatives and ancestors are buried here. And we would ask you to think a legacy would be to make a donation, no matter how small the donation, to help keep this flint wall in place. Help. Put your hands into your pocket. A nickel, a dime, a dollar. Send it to St. Anne's Church in Lewes in any way that you want. If you want to wrap a dollar around a dime and put it in an envelope and send it to St. Anne's Church, Lewes, do so. If you want to look up the church on the web and get an address and send it there, do that as well. But send something. Send something to restore this historic wall. And keep your ancestors safe. I doubt if they'll thank you because they won't know much about it. But it is important work. And they're taking it very, very seriously. And you can ask for nothing more than that the house of God should be saved, particularly when it's so old and is such a flourishing church. And you can relax in the knowledge that you've done your bit to keep your ancestors in the ground where they were originally buried, some of them 1,000 years ago. That's tonight, 9 o'clock, Philip Griffiths, St. Anne's Church in Lewis. Well worthwhile effort. And also, just up the road is the Black Horse Pub, and the assistant manager is Joe, who is a very, very good cricketer and has set about saving Firle Cricket Club. Once again, a very ancient cricket club. Cricket was played in Firle when the game was first invented. Firle is a tied village belonging to Lord Gage, and the cricket pitch and the ground are quite delightful. Joe is trying very hard to save the club from going under. He's batting for victory. Give a quid for every run that Joe scores this season, and you'll feel better for it. And you'll encourage him to score more runs. So there are two appeals for us to keep things going. I've got an appeal too. If there is anybody who is tech savvy, who would have a half a day a week to spend helping me with the technology of this industry, because as you can tell, I am long in the tooth and it is leaving me behind. There are lots of things which we should be able to do, which we can't do because I am not tech savvy enough. If you've got that sort of time and that sort of expertise, please consider getting involved with local television, because it is local, not parochial. We broadcast to the world, and we've got viewers across the world. We need your help. We need your help. Think about donating a little bit of time with the expertise that you've got, which I haven't, and which I've struggled to adopt, and which I have to confess I cannot. So there are some appeals on the Jamboree before the gang join us and we start to get into debate and argument and discussion. Well, I just had up on the screen comes a little bit that a lady called Vanessa in America, whom I know, has said good morning. Doubt if she can hear me, but good morning, Vanessa. Oh, and good morning, Rosie. Here we are. Good morning, Rosie.
Good morning, Keith. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. What did you do yesterday?
Well, I went to the movies yesterday evening.
Uh-huh. Did
Which
you
was,
not like fantastic for VE Day?
which was not very VE Day, was it? Was it?
Well, I don't know. We had a party, a garden party, where I live, and it was very well attended, and we had picnic and drinks, and the ladies danced on the lawn. It was
Well, do you know what, Keith? I kind of had a brief look around where I live, and there was hardly any atmosphere at all.
really.
Yeah. I didn't see any decorations on any houses as I walked by heading for the station, a train station. And I thought, okay, fine, fair enough. But when I ended up in Fulham in the SW6 area, totally different. Totally different. As I walked by several streets, I saw flags and everything, particularly in the street that I entered. It was full of flags. It was lovely. The
Ah, that's
atmosphere
wonderful.
was terrific. So, the difference was a little bit there yesterday.
Yes, yes. I think actually I wrote something the other day in one of the local blogs um, that an awful lot of people were quite cynical about things, but I don't see that. I get treated with kindness and courtesy, and I mean I can drive on my scooter from my
Yes,
house to the coffee shop, which is about a
right.
mile, and I will have at least 50 people either say good morning or comment on my hat, uh, which is a bit of a
Uh,
distinctive colour. Uh, and,
yeah.
uh, and people are kind and nice and pleasant. I just think that we hide our light under a bushel.
But look, you say that people are kind and nice. I couldn't agree with you more. It somehow seems to have developed or come across more, maybe. I don't know. But I am finding, particularly this year and parts of last year, just passing people in the street, anybody would just a little smile would come to their face. And it never used to happen quite like that. And I thought,
No, you're
well,
quite right. You're quite right. I
it's a
think
big
that
difference.
can you and I on one occasion had lunch at the Travellers Club,
Yeah.
which is rather a pleasant experience. But
Yes, lovely.
of course, they get accused of being elitist and so on and so forth. Me, elitist, but the lady who for many years, she only retired recently, ran the cocktail bar. Used to chat to me because I would get in there bang on 12 o'clock when it opened up, and she would chat to me and she'd say, "Mr. Hayes, I come in from Southend on the train," she said, "and I hear foul language and bad behaviour and graffiti and so on." And she said, "I
Wow,
walk into the doors of this club, and I walk into a world of courtesy, kindness, and consideration."
absolutely,
She said, "I'm here for
absolutely.
8 hours, and it's 8 hours of wonderful a day, and then I have to go out into that world again." And I think that world is changing. I think you're right, Rosie.
It's also very interesting to find that just about everybody you do come across, particularly even walking along the street, they've got a phone in their hands, haven't they? They've got a
Yeah,
phone, and you know, quite obviously they know where they're walking. But if they're sitting down on a tube station in a tube, um, they're on their phones. So I don't see the disruption that people used to make on the underground stations before everybody's got a smartphone. Everybody's got a smartphone. So they're all on it. And, they're doing all sorts of things. They're following chats and whatever. Sometimes you can't help but see because you're standing up and you can't help but see what they've got on their screens. Others are just watching movies. And I
yes,
thought, what a big change this is to travel on the underground, particularly in London, where you think, you're going to have a decent journey without any hassles, people sort of conflicting with each other on the way. And, smartphone seems to have done that. That's what I think. Others have,
well,
I think.
Isn't that a very good viewpoint? Because I hadn't considered that. But mind you, it's because of my disability, I don't go onto the underground very often anymore. But nonetheless, what a good point of view, Rosie.
But even on the street, if I go into Islington, Angel, which is my area where I quite often go to shop for whatever reason, usually clothes. But if you just see on the street, people have got a phone in their hands. They know where they're going. That's the interesting thing. They know where they're going. They've become used to it. And they're sort of working on their smartphones and walking along, look up briefly, and then you don't get, the conflict is not there as much as it used to be, for sure. Yeah. For sure. That's what I'm seeing these days.
The Islington Angel, London is a huge sprawling place, and many places I'm not familiar with, but I am familiar with the Islington because they held at one time the television show there with the latest technology. So I used to go up there, and there was rather a nice pub and restaurant.
Perfect.
Yes. And here is Mr. Philip.
Hello, Mr. Philip. Welcome.
Good morning, dear friends. How are you, Rosie?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. So I mean to ask you as well, Keith. How are you doing?
And not too badly. I have my good days and my bad days, but I ignore the bad days and just enjoy the good days.
What a very wonderful approach.
Now, Rosie, I'm going to stick him now because I had a communication from our good friend Harry Atherton, and he said, I've been talking to Philip, and Philip has invited me to lunch with you in Littlehampton, and I can't wait to get over there. So you're stuck with a lunch at some stage in the near future.
Yes, I know. Well, I extended the invitation. Whether it will ever happen, I don't know. And if you could get a decent battery in the Red Devil, then you could come over.
Yes. I must tell you, Rosie, he's a very, very good host. Having lunch with him is a joy.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe one day I would join you.
Well, you'd be very welcome. My goodness. Bit of a way for you.
In Littlehampton, yes.
Well, given the kind of weather we've been having, it makes it more. You're more inspired to go out and want to perhaps do a little bit of travel.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly where you live, and I'm not asking to know, but I'm sure there's a generally very reliable train service from London. And the restaurant we use, which is by the River Arun, is literally across the road from the railway station.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's and
okay.
I hope Keith will agree. We've never had a bad meal, have we, Keith?
Oh, no. I mean, not only not a bad meal, but not a bad occasion either. We've had loads of fun. And John Prideaux joined us on one occasion, who is also good fun. Yes, I really think that it would be a good venue for a Mirador.
We'll certainly have a good chinwag, won't
we? I mean, Rosie, this may amuse you. The first time Keith came over, he's saying, well, I hope they do small portions because I don't have a great appetite, and whenever I go to the Black Horse or anywhere in Lewes, I always ask for a child's portion. So the waitress came over, and she basically said, "Well, we don't really do child portions." So anyway, we ordered fish and chips from Recollection because it's very good there. Proper. Freshly caught fish. It's and these huge plates of fish and chips and mushy peas turn up. Now I am a fast eater. I eat far too quickly, actually, for my digestive system. I got halfway through my meal and his nibs over there had finished his. The whole plate. So Mr. Child portion only.
Yeah.
He patiently waited for me to finish mine and then said, well, I'll have some ice cream now.
Wow. Oh, goodness.
And with no vulgarity intended, the waitress said, how many balls, sir? And he said 3.
Wow. My goodness.
Not being a dessert person, I sat there drinking my wine, watching him gobble his way through ice cream.
But the story that he wants to really tell you is that I was a flower assassin.
Oh my goodness. I have an idea. I've told Rosie and Melissa about this, but in case I haven't, Keith turned up on a subsequent visit. So he's on the Red Devil. I meet him at the station. We cross the road, and he nearly mowed down 3 pedestrians doing that. We get to the other side and we're on the approach to the pub, the restaurant. Now, the restaurant has a very wide driveway. And we knew we had to park the Red Devil at the back of the pub. It would be in view of where we were sitting in case anybody tried to nick it, because this is Littlehampton after all. So Keith decides that he's going to go on the pavement that runs alongside the pub.
Oh.
Thing is, the pub was doing a floral display.
Oh.
And all along that frontage of the pub were these delightful flower baskets, sleepers, containers, with these lovely flowers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, by the time we reached the car park, there were no flowers left.
No.
Because Mr. Keith, stubbornly sticking to his pavement expedition, had literally wiped the flowers out.
Goodness. Oh, Mr. Keith. Goodness me.
The pub then offered to have the Red Devil indoors so it could be recharged.
Okay.
So we go indoors, and let's just say that it was like the carpet of flowers on Palm Sunday. He was physically shedding flowers from the back door of the pub to where our table was.
Okay.
And the amazing thing was, I expected us to be kicked out at any second. But the staff were absolutely charming, and they helped us clear the flowers up. But he completely ruined the whole floral display.
Oh my goodness. But I hope he spent enough there to sort of compensate for the destruction.
No. He always expects me to pay for him. which until now I have done, but I might change that habit. I might change that habit. No, in fairness, the last time we were there, he did offer to buy a bottle of wine.
Goodness. There you
but
go.
He didn't sound serious to me. And he kept on going on about how empty his bank account was, and the cost of running Mirador, and
absolutely, so you felt sorry for him,
Well, it's hard not to.
I understand.
He cuts a rather martyrish figure, I find.
Yes.
You know, but there we are. So yeah, so we need to add to those Arran View experiences.
I must admit that my BE day, sorry, I'm seeing the script beneath me saying BE day, so I'm going back to the subject. I know we opened up with it, Keith, but do you know what? I enjoyed it sitting at home watching it on television, the big parade, because to be fair, you get a much better view. Did any of you see it? Did either of you see it?
I'm afraid I didn't. I was otherwise engaged.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm afraid.
It looked really magnificent. And I thought, yeah, this is worth having. This is worth spending some money on. I don't mind my taxes going into it, something like that. It was fantastic. I loved it that way. I preferred it rather than trying to squeeze through a crowd of people.
Oh, I agree. Keith, you're on mute. You've muted yourself.
Ah, yes. And as I was saying a short while ago, I mean, there were very few streets in my part of the city, in Islington area, that seemed to be celebrating. But when I went to the Fulham Southwest 6 area, there were loads of flags on houses and things like that. So, you know, the difference of view. They always say that North London is more sort of, Labour politics, and South London is more Conservative politics. I don't know if that sort of explains why. I don't know.
Kensington and Chelsea, yes.
I'm talking about Fulham and Hammersmith.
Yes.
Basic suburbs. But yeah, they had the flags.
Well, what we had a thing in Arundel that was a bit more like a Remembrance Sunday event, really. But what they've done is on what is known as our Relief Road, which is basically the bypass around the town, they have put photographs of people from Arundel in the area who fought in the Second World War. So as you drive down, as you drive down the bypass and then into town, you have these little portraits on stilts.
Oh my goodness.
And the main roundabout is festooned with flags, as is the centre of town. So we did something.
That sounds fantastic, actually. Did they have the names of the people on the posters?
They do, but they're very hard to read when you're driving.
Of course, yeah, but
yes,
they were
do.
identified. Yeah, they were identified. You could go up and... Oh.
It's all right, it's Keith. I seem to jinx him, and he's obviously so keen to get rid of me that he takes me off stage every now and again.
Yes, I have no idea what I've done. That's the...
Well, that is the worrying thing.
Yes.
That's the worrying thing, but yes, I think I mentioned.
I can't. Hello. I can't hear anyone. Brilliant.
Hello. I'm sorry.
Hello. Yes.
I think we might have to start again.
No. Hello? I can. Okay. Oh dear. Goodness. Oh, I'm mute, am I?
No.
Keith is up and gone.
It's always Phil.
This is rather interesting.
Enjoy your coffee. What do you want?
Well, I'm on, but apparently Keith isn't.
Is Rosie on?
Yeah.
Is it you and Rosie?
I don't know if anyone can hear me, actually, frankly.
I don't know.
No,
Are they talking to you?
I can't hear a word.
But is somebody talking?
No. Perhaps I'm the only one on air, which would be rather
Rosie's
embarrassing.
on. You and Rosie are on, but cannot communicate.
It seems so. Oh, dear.
Well, you could just start all over again, I guess.
There you go.
Anything happening?
Oh, no, nothing's happening.
Just smile, okay? Just keep smiling.
Right.
Keep pleasant.
Try, certainly. You know, I think if in future, if Keith and perhaps it's a bit rude for me to have interjected in this way.
Ejected? It's not ejected, it's confusion. He doesn't know how to get on.
What are you doing? Stop spelling the rice.
Is he smelling the rice?
He's spelling the rice.
He's probably smelling the milk and the coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, see that's what he's doing. That's where he's going with the milk and the coffee. Doing cat?
He's going to knock it over.
Yeah. There's no concern for it.
He wants to play with it.
Is Rosie still on?
Yes, it seems so.
It's because Phil and Keith are trying to fix it. Because I texted Phil. Why don't we just click off and then let him click back on?